The proportion is begun for us in number 1. The problem says in a road atlas, the scale for the map of Connecticut is 5 inches equals 41 miles. And notice in the proportion, 5 inches to 41 miles is the ratio given on the left. What is the distance in miles represented by 3.5 inches on the map? The proportion needs to be completed with a ratio on the right side as well. Since inches is in the numerator and miles is in the denominator on the left, we need the same setup on the right. In the problem, we're given 3.5 inches, so that first question mark is replaced by a 3.5. The unknown is the number of miles, so that is replaced with an x. At this point, the problem is for cross multiplication. So when we multiply 41 by 3.5, we get 143.5. That has to be equal to the product of 5 and x, or 5x. Looking at this, we see that we can divide both sides by 5 in order to isolate the x. And dividing, we see that x is approximately, or is equal to 28.7. So there are 28.7 miles in 3.5 inches on the map. An artist used interlocking building blocks to build a scale model of the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. In the model, 1 inch is equal to 1.67 feet of actual space shuttle. The model is 110.3 inches tall. And the question is, how tall is the actual space shuttle? And of course, that would be denoted in feet. We're asked to round our final answer to the nearest tenth. So we'll start by cross multiplying the 110.3 by the 1.67 to get 184.201, which will be equal to 1x, or just x. In this case, there's nothing to divide by. So rounding to the nearest tenth, we would say that the height is 184.2 feet. Steak tips cost $6.99 a pound. How much will 5.5 pounds cost? Now, there's lots of different ways we could go about doing this problem, but the specific point here is to try using a proportion. So this is dollars per pound. So my numerator is dollars, so $6.99. And my denominator is pound, so that's per pound, so 1 pound. The question is for cost, so x is the unknown dollar amount, and 5.5 is the number of pounds that we want. When we cross multiply, x times 1 is just x, and 6.99 times 5.5 is equal to 38.445. Since we know that the grocery store is going to work in dollars and cents, we would expect the cost to be $38.45 for 5.5 pounds. Mary can read 22 pages in 30 minutes. So 22 pages in 30 minutes. How long would it take her to read a 100-page book? So knowing that I need pages on top and minutes on the bottom, I'm going to put the 100 pages on the top and the unknown number of minutes on the bottom. When we cross multiply, we see that 3,000 equals 22x. We do need to get x alone, so if we divide both sides by 22, it looks like we'll have to approximate our answer. 3,000 divided by 22. We have x is approximately equal to 136.4. Well, it's 136.36. They said round to the nearest minute, so approximately 136 minutes. A rainstorm produced a rainfall of 2 inches per hour. How many hours would it take to get a rainfall amount of 1 foot? Now we need to be careful here because we have 2 inches per hour and then we're talking about 1 foot. So remember, 1 foot is 12 inches. So if we have 2 inches per 1 hour, We want to get 12 inches, and we don't know how many hours. Cross multiplying, we see that 12 equals 2x. And of course, if we divide both sides by 2, we have that x is going to be 6 hours. You are making a scale drawing of your bedroom. If your bed is 7 feet long and your scale is 0.5 inches equals 1 foot, how long will your bed be in your drawing? So I have my scale of 0.5 inches to 1 foot. I don't know how big it's going to be on the model, but I know that in reality, we're dealing with 7 feet. So we're going to have 1x, or just x, is equal to 3.5 inches when we cross multiply. If 3 pounds of apples cost 90 cents, how much will 10 pounds cost? So we have 3 pounds per 90 cents is equal to 10 pounds per unknown cost. You could have set this up with costs on top and pounds on the bottom if you prefer, but once you cross multiply, the equation will be exactly the same either way, so it doesn't matter. So we're going to have $9. 9 is equal to 3x, and if we divide both sides by 3, we can see that we should expect to pay $3. Joseph drives 125 miles in 2.5 hours. At the same rate, how far will he be able to travel in 6 hours? So if we have 125 miles in 2.5 hours, the question is how far, so what we don't know is miles, he'll be able to go in 6 hours, keeping the units the same orientation. So we're going to cross multiply. So we have 2.5x is equal to 125 times 6, which is 750. If we divide both sides by 2.5 to get x alone, we have that x is equal to 300. So he'll be able to go 300 miles. In a shipment of 400 parts, 14 were found to be defective. How many defective parts should be expected in a shipment of 1,000? So if we have 14 defective parts out of 400 parts, we don't know how many defective parts we have out of 1,000 parts. You can choose to reduce the fraction on the left to make your math a little simpler, or you can multiply straight on. I'm noticing that they're both even, so personally I would reduce that to a 7, and that would to a 200 before I cross multiplied. So we would have 200x is equal to 1,000. Dividing both sides by 7,000. I can see that those two zeros cancel, so I'm really just dealing with 70 divided by 2, or 35 parts. So we would expect 35 defective parts.